Tim Kaine of Virginia joins us now. He serves in the Senate Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, you and I have been talking about this issue for more than a decade now, whether the president is a Democrat or a Republican. Democrats have been trying to get a vote to limit the president's war powers. Will the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei impact the urgency of such a vote in one way or another?
I think it will, Jake, but the question is bigger than just the vote. Has the U.S. learned nothing from 25 years of war in the Middle East? Thousands of U.S. lives lost, troops and private contractors, trillions of dollars expended, hundreds of thousands of civilian deaths across the region, destabilizing the region, which we did when we foolishly invaded Iraq on fake pretenses. We've seen this before, an invasion on fake pretenses. At least President Bush put together a coalition of global nations in the war against Iraq. At least he came to Congress and sought the constitutionally approved vote in Congress. President Trump is doing this on his own. Nigeria, Venezuela, boat strikes in open waters, 2 attacks now on Iraq, threatening military action against Colombia, Mexico, Cuba, maybe Greenland. It's time for Congress to stand up and represent our constituents who are saying we are tired of forever wars, especially in the Middle East. That's the vote that I'll ask my colleagues, and frankly, I'm insisting that my colleagues vote on. It's a bipartisan resolution. It will come up early this week.
You and I have talked about this before, and I think I'm a little less polite about it than you are, but isn't the problem that exactly what you talked about when you talked about the George W. Bush going to war in Iraq? There was a vote on that, and that vote haunted a lot of Democratic senators in particular, who later regretted voting to go to war. Some of them, I mean, I don't know that Joe Biden or Chris Dodd or Hillary Clinton or anyone else specifically blamed that vote for why they didn't get the presidential nomination in 2008, but your colleagues, a lot of them, they don't want skin in the game. They don't want to be, they want to be able to criticize it if it goes poorly and praise it if it goes well.
Yeah, so Jake, they want to put our sons and daughters' skin in the game, and they want to hide from a vote of consequence. Let people be haunted by a bad vote. Let them look in the mirror and ask themselves the question going in, is this war worth it? President Trump has advocated all kinds of reasons for this unnecessary war with Iran. It's because of their nuclear program. Wait a minute, 6 months ago, he said he'd obliterated the program. Years ago, he tore up a diplomatic deal that was controlling Iran's nuclear program. He suggested last night the war was justified because Iran interfered in the 2020 election that he refuses to concede that he lost. It's to protect protesters. Wait a minute, President Trump is sending Iranian refugees back into Iran to face persecution. If he cared about Iranian citizens being oppressed by their government, he wouldn't be doing that at the same time. This was a war without, I can say this, I'm on 2 committees that give me access to a lot of classified information. There was no imminent threat from Iran to the United States that warrants sending our sons and daughters into yet another war in the Middle East, and I'm going to do everything I can to stop it.
So the argument from President Trump, were he here, might be we have learned something from 25 years of disastrous Middle East wars. We're not going to have boots on the ground. Everything is being done with the Air Force or with the Navy flyers. And so that's what we've learned. What would your response to that be?
So we've learned that lesson, so it's okay to kill school children when their schools are hit by U.S. weapons. I don't think that's the message. I don't think that's the message. The president himself said this is a war of a length that could well lead to soldiers and airmen and sailors and Marines' deaths. Is it worth it? I mean, is it worth our sons and daughters going into harm's way and risking their lives and risking injury and killing civilians when the president has not expressed a valid rationale for a war like this? I care deeply about the law that we should not wage war without a vote of Congress, because I think the framers of the Constitution decided war was so consequential in the damage to our troops that we shouldn't ask them to risk their lives if we don't have the guts to have a debate and vote that a war is in the national interest. If we do, folks who volunteered for military service were aware this might be the consequence. But to let a president end-run Congress, end-run the public, not have to advance a rationale, and use our troops like a palace guard, moving them here and there at his whim to do whatever he happens to think is a good idea when he wakes up that day, horrible mistake. That's why war was designed in our Constitution to only be something done after careful deliberation. We'll have that deliberation this week, and we'll see whether members of the Senate think we should just hand over war powers to an increasingly, I would say, kind of dissolute and deranged president.
Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, I know it was your birthday a few days ago. Happy 68th. Thanks for being with us today.
You bet, Jake.
Coming up next.